Hi, welcome to Gabie's Knit Goodies. I'm excited to talk about a couple of new knitting projects that I have put on my needles and one I've already finished, as well as some crochet projects that my daughter's made and a little life update on just what's been going on. My life has been quite busy. So let's start with, well, I did want to say that I finished the Ingrid Summer sweater, and I'll put a little picture of that here. I will do like a whole video on that sweater, but it is currently in a yarn shop called Susan's Yarn Stash as a sample sweater because all of my yarn is over there. If you have been looking on Etsy for my yarn, I have my shop in vacation mode right now because it's the end of school and things are very busy, and I had the opportunity to bring my yarn to a semi-local yarn store for me, and that just worked out really well because yeah, life gets busy during spring with all of the school. Well, I homeschool my kids, so with all of that and all of our stuff, we do a co-op with other kids and families and teachers, and then they're in band and dance and all the things that have all of the performances and all of the stuff, but I feel like I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off. So it worked out quite well to bring all of my yarn over to her shop and then put my Etsy shop on vacation mode. So here shortly, if not already, my shop should be back open, and we'll see how much I get back from the yarn shop. I sent just about everything over there. Yeah, so it might take a little while to get stuff back. And I don't always continually dye all of my colorways. There's a few that I try to keep in stock, but some of them I just dye once and then don't dye it again. So it just depends how much people ask for things and how much I enjoy dyeing particular colorways or different things like that. Anyways, so on to the knitting. That's where my yarn is. So anyways, yes, on to the knitting. I guess I'll start with what I'm wearing, because this is a brand new cast on / a finished object, which is quite exciting. Hard to believe that it's been so long since I've podcasted as well. This is the Carta vest, and it's by Lyric. I think she's a Japanese designer. And I wanted a vest. I had been kind of wanting a vest. And this one, it really caught my eye because of the I guess herringbone pattern stitch of it. I was unsure that I really wanted to knit it because of that. I was worried that it would be just way too tedious, but it utilizes slip stitches and is actually knit sideways. So the actual knitting of it wasn't too bad. You do really have to pay attention though. There's a good amount of like shaping because you have, the neck that comes up, and then since it's knit sideways like this, it shapes down and then across and then down a little bit over the shoulders. And so you have to pay attention because not only do you have those like decreases going on because you start here in the center of each one of these panels, but you have that stitch pattern as well. And so there's just some different stitches. Every row is not the same. Let me put it that way. But it's not difficult. It's just you have to pay attention to the pattern. You do cast on with a I-cord cast on. I think that's what it is. You make like an I-cord and then you pick up stitches along the I-cord. I was not excited to do that either, but it really makes a very nice edge, and it really wasn't that bad to do it either. So yeah, learning new things, which is always fun. I've been knitting for quite a while, since college, and knitting a lot for like, I don't know, 5 years or more, probably more than that. Maybe almost a decade that I've been knitting like a lot. And so I think it's really cool that there's still things that I don't really know how to do, and then I get to do a project that has me learn something. Okay, so I started this on April 13th, and I dyed this charcoal colorway specifically for myself for this pattern. I will probably dye some and have it in the shop as well before too long. It is a worsted weight 100% superwash merino. This is a worsted weight pattern. Yeah. And I'm using the suggested needle sizes throughout the whole thing, except for one small part at the end, which I'll tell you about. And the needle size is a US 10 and 10.5, depending on where you are. So a very large needle size. And I think part of the reason you need that large of a needle size is because you're doing slip stitches, and it just keeps the tension nice to have a larger needle so that you don't have the yarn like pulling. Let's see. Yes, okay. The yarn that she used was a 100% merino wool, and it was 206 yards per 100 grams. And this one is 218 yards per 100 grams. So very similar worsted weight yarn. Yeah. It's called the woven herringbone stitch. And the gauge is supposed to be 18 stitches and 36.5 rows for a 4x4 or 10 by 10 centimeter swatch. Yes, it is. It's kind of an interesting pattern. She has sizes, so you can do your length, and you have 5 sizes to choose from for that. And then your width, and you have 5 sizes to choose for that. So you don't have to choose just a small, medium, large like that. You can choose a long one and skinny, or a short one and really wide, or you can just, like I did a size 2 in a length, or a length 2 and a body width B. So I did marry the second size on each one of those for length and width. But you could totally adjust it to how you want it, which I think is kind of cool. I haven't seen a lot of patterns like that. So anyways, it is knit in pieces, like I said, with the I-cord edging cast on here, and then you knit side to side, and then you leave these side stitches on waste yarn, and then you knit the back. And I thought this was another really interesting thing about this pattern, a new thing for me in terms of sweater knitting, is a Judy's Magic cast on. I've used it, the only thing I've used it before is for the toe-up socks. And if you're familiar with that, it's the exact same thing as the toe-up sock. And it is used in the center of the back. So you do this really long Judy's Magic cast on, and then you put one side on hold, and then you knit one side of the back and then the other side of the back. And so then you have live stitches on the edges of your back as well as on the 2 side edges of your front. And then it says you could do a 3 needle bind off, or else do a Kitchener stitch for under the arm here. I chose a 3 needle bind off with the visible seam. I honestly am not sure if I was supposed to have the seam on the inside or on the outside. I don't know. It seemed appropriate to have it on the outside because then you have an I-cord, just a two-stitch I-cord edging on your sleeves here. So yeah. Yes. And your neckline has a very nice edging on it, as well as the hem, or it's not a hem, but the edging here. And this is done as you go back and forth. And this was also something brand new to me and unique, the way that she did her edging for it. It was like you would pick up and knit together, like you would slip a stitch. Like I've done the whole slip the stitch at the end or at the beginning to create a neat edge. But this one, when you went to actually knit that stitch, you would pick up a strand from below, like the stitch from below, and it does create like a nicer edging. So I think that's, I don't know, it's kind of cool. If you are to knit this, I actually suggest maybe doing your swatch with these edgings on it, and working the pattern, because I was a little confused initially of exactly what the point of picking up the stitches and knitting it together was and how it was supposed to look and which like stitch below made sense to pick up. Yeah, so I kind of suggest practicing just a little bit, and I think that that would make it just smoother and easier when you start to do the whole thing, because you can't just rip back the edge very easily to like fix a mistake. So yeah, let's see. Now your armholes as well could easily be adjusted because the sides are just totally straight. You just seam up this part and then leave your armhole open, so you could make that smaller or bigger as you see fit. And let's see, I don't know what else to say about it. You steam your pieces before you do those sides. I don't have my buttons and snaps that I'm supposed to have, and I have not purchased any yet, but I'm going to tomorrow. So I guess technically I'm not fully done. You're supposed to put a couple of snaps, or wherever you have your buttons, you're supposed to put snaps and then like buttons, and then have loops that go around the buttons. So I might do it that way, but I have to find snaps. And then she has two samples. One is a size 3 in C, and the other one's a 1 in A, so like the smallest and then like the third size for both length and width. And on one of them she has buttons all the way down, on the other one she just has like 2 buttons at the top. And the way this seems to fit, it kind of naturally opens up a little bit. So I think I want to do the 2 buttons at the top. I think that would be cute. And a big reason why I wanted this is for a trip going out west where it's going to be kind of cold. I thought this would be a very nice transition piece. And with this neckline the way it is, like it comes up all the way like to my hair in the back, like my hairline in the back, and comes up and covers my neck in the front, especially if I were to, you know, have those buttons here. So it keeps my neck warm. Yeah. And it looks cool. I think it's kind of a cool looking vest. Yeah. Anyways, so almost done with it. The only thing left are those buttons, and then it'll be totally done. It came out a little bit shorter than I expected. I should measure it. to see if it's the same as the pattern or not. I think I said I did size 2 and B. I will show you, I'll try to show this to you, and then I will measure it if I can. Okay, maybe I will. I'm going to take it off and measure it and show you the edging, and then after I finish talking, I'll get up and do so you can see the whole thing. You can't see the whole thing very well here, but it's super cute. Apologize for my squeaky chair that I'm in. So I said that it had that Judy's Magic cast on, and that is actually right here, that center line. And with the way the herringbone pattern is, like, you can't see any difference between right there and like any other pattern change. So I think that looks quite amazing. Here's the inside of it. You can see where it is on the inside a little bit, right there, but it's like totally invisible on the back, on the outside of the garment, which makes it look very, very nice. Very nice. The edging here, I can show you. This is that edging I was talking about. Let's see if I can do this without it. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's thicker than it would be if I was just slipping one stitch. And I don't know if you can actually see the fact that it has like a double, those are double knit stitches there. Let's see. I think the only real, I guess, trouble I had was you do some very rapid decreases at the neckline, and she talks about it doing a loose outer edge stitch because it can pull. The rapid decreases can pull, and I found that they kind of like made little puff stitches, because there were times when you had to do like 3 purl together or things like that. So I think it looks fine overall, but I feel like that little neckline area is just not quite as neat as like the rest of the garment is so polished, and like the finishing work on it all is so nice that I kind of wish that those decreases could somehow be just a little less visible. You see what I mean? Right here and here is, they're just kind of a little puffy. And I don't know if it's something that I did wrong. I tried to follow the pattern. But that, again, it's kind of in the, I guess it's not in the beginning, but like the first, you're working from here in, and so the first time you do a decrease, it's those big decreases. Yeah. Anyways, it still looks good, and I'm still very happy with it. So the only thing I changed was the needle size for the edging here. Apologize for my chimes. The wind is blown and I have chimes right outside my room here. Instead of doing like the size 10 needles or 10 and a half, whatever it is, I actually went down to an 8, because the first time I did it, and I believe I have a picture of it, or a picture of the comparison, it almost kind of buckled as opposed to like being smooth. And I certainly didn't want my, after everything else looks so nice, I didn't want this edge to be like almost kind of ripply. So I think it looks nice, but again, I did go down 2 needle sizes to do that part. Yeah. Okay, so quick measurement. Okay, I'm only getting about 21 inches for my length, which 21.5 is the size 1. I should have had 23.25. So I guess my gauge, which I did not swatch, my gauge was tighter than the patterns. I did feel like 10.5s were quite large needles, and so I probably pulled a little tighter than I would have if I was knitting like stockinette stitch. Or if I was knitting like a bulky weight yarn with 10.5 needles, or if I was knitting like worsted weight with an 8 needle. So I like the fabric that I have created, but it isn't as long as what the pattern is supposed to be. So my gauge is slightly smaller. And I do feel like that's probably my technique that I was using. Let's see, and the width, let's see, straight width here should be about 22. So I get about 21 for my width, and it should be 22. So I'm close on the width. So my row gauge then, since this is knit side to side, is very close to the pattern, just a slight bit off, and then my stitch gauge is slightly more off than that. But it doesn't matter. I like it, and I wouldn't change it. I like that it's kind of cropped, and I am actually a little bit short-waisted, so it probably suits me well. I wanted kind of the look like she has in her samples of kind of the boxy and wide garment. So, I like it. And it does add just a little bit of warmth, which is nice. And the pattern is just gorgeous. So I decided to put a snap in it. I tried the button with a loop as well, but I want to be able to leave it kind of open. And I didn't like a little loop on there. I'm not 100% sure if I like the look of the snaps, and I'm afraid they might be a little bit visible, but I think for the most part, they're not. If it flaps open like this, you'd be able to see them, but that's not really how I plan on wearing it anyways. So I kind of liked the clean look of just doing the snaps instead of having a big button and a little loop. It was especially the little loop. I didn't like little crochet chain loop hanging off when I wear it open. So, yeah. I think it's kind of cute. It definitely keeps my neck warm. And, yeah. I like it. Stays on pretty well. And I think it just, yeah, I was trying to style it like the pattern picture. All cool with a big shirt. Not sure I'm as cool as the pattern writer or the whoever was in that photo, but I think it's cute. Yeah, I really do feel like it looks cleaner like this than having the big button and the loop. So we will see. I'll be wearing it this week, and I'll see how I like it. And if I wear it latched the majority of the time, like snapped shut, then maybe I would want the button and the loop on it too. But I don't know. I'm thinking that it might end up being worn like just open, more like kind of a shrug, possibly more than closed. If it's cold out, I'd wear it closed to keep me warm, but I don't know, I feel like this is a bit of a transitional piece right now for me, and so it'll probably be worn open. But like it, would recommend it. There's a lot of attention to detail. The only place I feel like that's missing in the pattern is on that like button and snap. There's not really any instructions much about the snap except for where to put them. And then it just says do a little crochet chain, and it doesn't really give you any more information than that for the loop and button. Not that big of a deal, but with all of the details everywhere else, I was a little surprised that that was kind of left without details. In fact, I think it may be a small I-cord chain would actually look more encompassing with the rest of the garment rather than the crochet chain. The crochet chain did look bad in and of itself while it was being used, but I don't know, it just kind of hung out there like it didn't belong when it was open like this. And I kind of feel like this might be how I wear it the most. So, love it. I'm kind of contemplating a second, like a long one maybe? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's very cute, and I'm very excited to wear it. Okay, enough of that. My next new cast on is The Traveler by Andrea Mowry, Drea Renee Knits. All right, here we go. Oh, for the Carta, one of the pictures she has like toggle type buttony things, and I thought they were cool. I found this in my stash, but unfortunately I only have one. Otherwise I think it might work. But I only have one, so I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'd go to the store, I guess. But if I had to buy new ones, I'd probably buy a darker button. So that's what I'll do. Anyways, The Traveler. I needed something else when I was almost finished with that. And so I cast on The Traveler hoodie. Okay. It starts at the bottom, and you knit up in a very simple, exaggerated garter type look, where you're doing a few knit rows and then a couple of purl rows. Yeah, I think it's looking nice. And then you do something new again, which is, I have to say, it's so cool to still be learning new things with knitting. So this is a long tail tubular cast on, I believe. Yes. Long tail tubular cast on. I had to look up a video for this, and the initial like getting the yarn on the needles was not difficult, but you have to do it all at once, and then you have to like do your next row. You can't really like pick it up and put it down during the cast on process, because it's kind of similar to like Judy's Magic cast on, but it's only using one needle. So it's a little weird. But you do that, and then you actually knit flat for your like 3 setup rows, and then you start going in the round. And I think the 3rd setup row is just to make it a 2x2 ribbing, as opposed to like a 1x1 ribbing maybe. So at minimum, you'll have like putting the stitches on and then doing 2 setup rows, possibly 3, like she has in this pattern is 3. So I wasn't thrilled about that, but after I had started it into it, I was like, well, no point in ripping it out now. I might as well proceed. Plus it's like a lot of stitches. I'm knitting size 3. I wanted to make sure it's plenty big and wide. And it's 248 stitches to cast it on. So that's a good amount of stitches. So anyways, it looks really nice and I'm thrilled that I did it. But it's not fun, in my opinion, to do it. So, it's so soft. The yarn I'm using, which is part of the reason I actually did this project in the first place, because I wanted something to use this yarn for. It is unnamed currently, but it is baby alpaca blown into a cotton mesh. I don't know how well you can see the details of this yarn, but it gives a very heathered kind of look and a very halo-y fuzziness and very, very soft, as you can imagine with baby alpaca. And it is natural, the natural baby alpaca, this is natural colorway. So it has highs and lows of like tan and brown in it. And then it has the white cotton mesh that runs throughout. So that's why it really looks very nicely heathered. And I love it in the skein like that, or in the cake. But I have to say I love it even more in the sweater. I have dropped a few stitches, so I am rescuing those. So this is how it is knitting up. And it's very soft. It's 320 something yards per 100 grams, I believe. So that puts it around the sport weight, which is the correct gauge for the traveler, which is part of the reason why I decided to knit the traveler. This is not my first experience with it either. My daughter wanted a hoodie a while back, and she wanted it out of boucle yarn that I had. So this is her sweater. It's very well loved. Yes, it's very well loved. And I knit it out of a DK weight boucle merino yarn. And I dyed it up in Bees Blue Boucle is what I called it. But this is a sport weight pattern. So I had to modify it as I went using like measurements rather than stitch counts. And I had to kind of extrapolate what those measurements were and do some figuring out. It worked out great. She loves it and wears it all the time. But I was kind of interested to do it again in a sport weight yarn. And I wanted one for myself anyways. So when I found this yarn and it was in sport weight, I was like, I know exactly what I want to knit myself with it. Anyways, after that cast on, it's been a totally mindless knit. I did not love doing the ribbing in the small needles she has, which I think it's a size US 3 for the ribbing, but I don't know. That was just a little tedious, and my needles are very pointy. They were the Haya Sharps, which I love for like socks and lace work, but I don't like using sharp needles with anything fuzzy or that can get kind of caught. Like the boucle yarn, it's easy to knit up when you have dull needles, like not super sharp ones. But if you have sharp ones, they can get caught. And I found the same thing to be true for this. So the size 3s and like high sharp needles, I don't know, it just was not super fun to knit that part. But then it changes to a 4 or 5 What are these? A 5. So it changes up to a 5, and it's just lovely to knit. And I'm also using knit picks, interchangeable, their nickel needles. And I don't know how well you can see it, but they're not super sharp. And so it really is kind of like, I don't know, very smooth and easy to knit at this gauge. Anyways, yes, loving it. Just split for the front yoke, if you'd like to see that. So you actually cast on some stitches when you split for that front section, and you knit back and forth. And it is kind of a cropped hoodie. And I decided to leave it as a cropped hoodie. Yeah, I just said, try not to modify things. I tend to like go off on my own and modify things, but I'm trying to do more straight pattern. Yeah. Okay, so that is, other than some socks I've been working on, and I don't have any other knitting projects, but I did want to show you a couple of crochet projects, and these are not of my own making, but I'm showing off my kids' work. So this little bunny came to me at Easter, and this was knit by my youngest daughter, or crocheted by my youngest daughter. Apologize, definitely crochet. She did a great job with it. And then this one was crocheted by my other daughter, my middle child, for Easter for me. It's very cute. And then my son had a birthday not too long ago. And one of my children wanted to, one of my daughters wanted to crochet him something. So my youngest daughter crocheted this guy. I don't know if you have children who play the game Hollow Knight. It is like a computer video game of this little guy who, I think he's a bug with like a little shell on his head. That's why he has this big like horn thing on his head. It's supposed to be like a shell or something. Anyways, he goes around and fights other little bugs in tunnels and things. Kind of weird, but he enjoys it, and my daughter did an excellent job of creating that for him. I was very proud of her. My 2 daughters have been very, very into crochet lately, and I have plenty of other projects if y'all are interested to show you guys. I might even have a few pictures of some they've given away, because they made crochet items for teachers, and they've just been really into crochet lately. All right. Yes, I think that's all of the projects I have here. One other thing I wanted to show you guys, I was teaching a middle school, or 2 middle school sewing and handicrafts classes. And so I've gotten to dabble in a lot of different needle arts and stuff this year, which has been very fun. And I wanted to show a couple of the pictures of their work from the year. We had a showcase, and they did some beautiful embroidery, and I helped them make bags to put the embroidery on, to show it off, and to just not just have it sitting collecting dust, because they worked really hard and it looks really good. So pictures of that, and then they had some other things on display that we've done throughout the year, from like needle felting, which was super fun. I think I may have shown you some of that before, and other crochet work, and yeah, just lots of different stuff that we've done and I've gotten to play with. So it's been really fun, and I just had to brag about them. I also did a knit and crochet class for adults and high schoolers, and here I have a picture of their display table. They just had a few of the items that they did. Most of the items like they gifted or took home and just kept and didn't bring it back. But there's a sweater on the table there, and we did a crochet bag recently. And one of the girls, after we did a tulip in class, crocheting a tulip, she just took off and did a vase of like gorgeous flowers, all in crochet. Like, yeah, my students were amazing and very honored to have them in my class. So anyways, I think that is it for today. I am so glad I got to talk to you guys because it's been a little while, and I hope that you guys are having a wonderful spring or whatever season you are in, and no matter what season it is, I hope you have plenty of time to play with yarn. So talk to you later.